Hi, Nicole. How you doing? Thank you very much for your submission. Article I chose was the do's and don'ts of small space decorating. I want to talk about those do's and don'ts here for 1 second, but let's go ahead. I've got your post up right here. The first thing I want to mention um, here, Nicole, is the actual presentation itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce this window a little bit, and I'm going to reduce the size of this so that we can see within the window what's going on. There we go. That's perfect. Okay. So I want to talk about the presentation first. I know whenever, as a designer, you really want to make it as easy as possible for your viewer to take a look at the presentation work. That's why we do things like multi-page PDFs, just to eliminate the amount of downloading that one would have to do. And in this particular case, I would say there's some inconsistencies based on the orientation of each page. So if you take a look at this presentation, the first page is sideways, right? So the viewer is going to have to adjust that to get a good look at it. And then this one is the other way. So even if I come over here, and let's go ahead and rotate this to the first page. There, now we can take a look at the first page, but that makes the second page upside down, and subsequently the third page as well. So just, in design, it's just a really good practice to consider the ease of viewing based on the person who's about to look at your presentation. You want to make it, it's typically it's going to be a creative director, an art director, fellow designers, someone you're collaborating with, or even a client. So as you can see, those are all stakeholders in the project. So you really want to make things as easy as possible. Okay, remember I said I want to talk about do's and don'ts. Now I went ahead and I looked at the link, and the article is basically a do's and don'ts, like a bullet list of do's and don'ts. And I'm not real sure if that's the best way to approach this assignment. And the reason I say that is because we're going to try to practice some typographic layout here based on a two-page spread, based on the continuation of paragraphs, etc. So for that reason, I don't recommend using a bullet list for this assignment. I think it would be better if you were to um, select a topic or select an article that's based on an essay type entry as opposed to a list entry. So there's going to be plenty of time to establish lists in typography, and we'll learn how to do that as we work through the class. But at this point, I think it's really important that we concentrate on multi-page type as a continuation of paragraphs as opposed to a simple list of do's and don'ts. So we can see that, so you may want to consider changing the article to represent that. Now, as far as the page mechanics itself goes, we have small space decorating with the big opening image. Then we have do's and don'ts. So the page mechanics here is pretty good. I'm wondering if this image isn't redundant because you've got the scene setting here on the left-hand side of the page. So why include another scene on the right-hand side? You see what I'm saying? It just might be a little bit redundant in that regard. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this one. Okay, this one could possibly be problematic in that right now you've got an image spanning the center gutter of the page. The gutter is where the two pages fold together. And if this were a flat 11 by 17 layout, sure, anything would go across that center span, but it's not. It's a fold. Okay, this is a double spread, meaning it's going to fold, which means that fold will fall in here somewhere, and that could theoretically create some distortions in the photograph and any other things that you may happen to place in the center of this layout. So just keep that in mind. And then the third image, I think the third sketch. Again, I think it's a good introduction here. We've got small space, do's and don'ts, kitchen remodel, then we start here. But I'm not sure of what these would be. Again, apparently it seems as though this is just the same kind of assembly of a list as opposed to concepting and laying out a continuation of paragraph after paragraph, all revolving around the same central theme, the same idea. So we don't have this kind of, okay, here's a do, then a stop, then here's another do, then stop, here's another do. What we want to do is learn how to assemble typography in a continuous flow in a multi-page document. Again, so this all to me points to success being in that you might consider using a different a different article that's not representative of lists, but rather essay style with a series of paragraphs to be continued one after the next for the assembly of one continued thought and one continued idea, as opposed to sectioning off, do this, don't do this, don't do this. Hope that makes sense. It's really important that these comments make sense to you. It's important to me because if they don't, then we haven't learned anything, right? So if you do, if you have questions or you would like further clarification, please let me know. I'll be glad to provide as such. But those would be my recommendations moving forward. If you want to run something else by me, if you want to select a different article, that's great. I'll be more than glad to make additional comments. Just let me know what you intend on doing. All right, good start, and thanks so much for sharing.